Story 1. Putting between $50 and $200 per fortnight in a low-cost index fund when I was 20 and not touching it for at least 25 years. Story 2. Not pursuing things I was actually interested in when I was younger. I loved art and writing but was told they were not practical. I am working on them now, but I really wish I had been all these years. Oh well. I think the positive takeaway is that it is never too late to start. Story 3. Walking away from corporate America sooner. Look around, you and all your peers are trading your physical health for money. All of you. I was in an all-day workshop a few years ago in technology, and I looked around the room, myself included. It hit me. Everyone in this room sweats when they eat, can't stand a temperature over 85 degrees, and looks like they would fail a basic fitness assessment. Since that day, I've been a health fanatic, much to the detriment of corporate America. I was even told, maybe if you take on more projects instead of going to the gym, you would earn more, or some version of that nonsense. Not anymore. It is a slow plank walk that you do not even realize you are taking. Story 4. Doing a semester abroad in college. It sounds like it was a great experience for people who did it, but I just could not afford it. Missing prerequisite classes may have delayed my graduation. Story 5. Staying with my high school boyfriend. He was perfect, but I felt like I needed to see the world. I am married with children now and hate how it still crosses my mind. Story 6. Not considering my son's mother's feelings when we were together. Now she is getting married to someone else next weekend. We were together for 7 years, and I miss her every day. Story 7. I regret not giving my father more of a break. Did I have to point out every time he made a mistake? He was a difficult person in the 1990s, but he honestly turned his life around by 2003. I took my frustration out on him until the day he died. I was petty in his later years. He was just a man trying his best despite his own struggles. Story 8. When I was a little kid, my parents were getting photo identification cards taken for Sam's Club memberships, and the friendly lady asked if I wanted one. I got shy and said no, followed by immediate regret. I never said anything, but I still feel like I missed out when I drive past a Sam's Club every time. Story 9. Leaving my first wife, I found myself. Now we're married with 2 amazing kids. Life went from a nightmare to a dream come true. It is never too late to find happiness. Story 10. I regret not staying in the United States and visiting my mother more during one of the last years of her life. Instead, my spouse and I moved to Ukraine for a couple of years for work. It was a meaningful experience. I do not regret going, but I regret not being with my mother, if that makes any sense. Story 11. Not enough space here. If I had advice for my younger self, it would be to be less afraid and take more risks. I have had a wonderfully blessed life, but I look back and see times when I should not have hesitated. Be brave. Story 12. I regret ignoring the warning signs in relationships just because I liked the person and wanted to experience it, even if it was going to go wrong. Story 13. Sometimes I feel like maybe I regret not finishing high school and getting that diploma, but I have a great career as a drywall taper for 23 years now. I make good money, but sometimes I wonder if finishing high school is important. No, I don't regret it, but in the back of my mind, I do wish that maybe I should have at least tried to achieve it. School just isn't for me. I value hard work over studies, but for what? What would I do differently? I don't know. Story 14. Kissing my best friend when I had the chance. He was all I ever wanted, and I simply didn't take the shot with him. We both had feelings, but neither of us made it official. Now we don't talk to each other, and I live with regret every day of not doing more. Story 15. Not being kind because of peer pressure in my teens and 20s. I wanted friends more than I wanted to do what was right. I changed, thankfully, but I wish I could go back and fix it all. Absolutely no one deserved us being unkind. I hope I never stop regretting it. I deserve it. One saving grace is I have a 21-year-old daughter who has done what is right and continues to. She makes me proud and stronger every day. Story 16. Weird enough, joining a sorority in college. I feel like I missed out on something that was unique to the college experience, and I will never have that opportunity again. Even if I had done it and hated it, as many had warned, I would have at least known for myself. Story 17. Talking to the more attractive girls that I probably had an actual chance with. You miss 100% of the shots you do not take. Story 18. Not a complete regret, but I do wish I took advantage of studying abroad in college. Now that I am a working professional, I look back at all the time and opportunities one could have spent traveling freely, though I would have been broke with minimal obligations. I wish I could have told my younger self to take better advantage of it. Maybe I will do that when I retire. Story 19. My mother died 2 hours ago, and I regret not spending more time with her and telling her how much I loved her. Story 20. 2002 to 2004 should have been amazing the more I think about it. I regret not doing enough to enable more experiences. I regret being an asshole ever. There were many things that I internalized as normal because of trauma from a fluid environment when I should have seen those things as perceived failures. Story 21. Going to college when I was younger, I put it on the back burner. Going back now, when my life is much busier, is not the best decision. Story 22. My father's friend once offered to have me house sit for him in Nice for a couple of months. I wish I had taken that offer. Story 23. Learning how to say no, even when there is no logical reason other than simply not wanting to do it. Story 24. Buying Bitcoin when it was under $1, then when it was under $100, and then when it was under $1,000. Story 25. Saying yes to things due to the fear of judgment, being perceived, or extreme anxiety. Training my brain that even if people do not like or vibe with me, it does not mean there are consequences or punishments that come with that. I have lost many past opportunities due to being too much in my head or scared of something I have made up in my mind. Because of that, I am hyper-independent and alone, and it is very hard to get out of that negative feedback loop, especially when it is so internal. It is necessary for others to have patience with me. Exposure therapy is the best for this, but it is also the hardest. Maybe in the future I will laugh at how scared of everything I have been my entire life. Story 26. Trying harder with my ex, I let depression get to me in February, and it stopped me from making much-needed progress to close the distance. I think it started after we were not able to meet up on Valentine's Day as planned, and I was looking forward to it. I should have been open about it, but I was worried about being a bother or upsetting her. I quickly gave up when she ended the relationship. Maybe if I had been upfront, she could have helped and given me the emotional support I needed to get things moving so we could be together right now. Story 27. Studying abroad. My roommate went to Chile for a semester and invited me to come, but I was in love, so I did not. She had an amazing time, is now fluent in Spanish, and got to go to Patagonia. I got dumped and am still struggling with Spanish. So dumb. Story 28. A threesome in college with 2 beautiful girls was basically thrown in my lap. I was too drunk and unaware to realize it at the time. Story 29. I traveled more when I was younger. I was poor, but I found ways to get around, teach English, and go to school. Story 30. I regret not traveling more when I had the time and fewer responsibilities. I kept putting it off, thinking there would always be a better time, more money, and less stress. Story 31. I wish I had studied abroad in college. If you have an interest in exploring the world and your major offers a program, do it. I make time to travel today, but it is easier said than done. It would have been easier back in school. Story 32. My one and only true regret is not buying Bitcoin when I had the chance back when it first started. I kick myself every day. Story 33. Years ago, there was a bridge over a river that you could jump into. I chickened out. It was disappointing, and I always remember my friends jumping while I did not. I had the opportunity to teach English at a monastery in England before my family. I wish I had done it, but I also would never have met my wife or had my children, so. Story 34. Going to college straight out of high school. I don't regret choosing to go the community college route. However, I didn't stick with it, and now it's impossible to find the motivation to start classes again. Story 35. Not taking chances. Being scared of rejection. Caring too much about people's opinions. Saving money. Story 36. I had a party at my house in college. I came upstairs after a night of beer pong, quite intoxicated. I turned on my light and saw two attractive women, both of whom I knew, in my bed making out. I sat in my recliner and watched until I passed out, instead of joining in the activities. Story 37. I would say I regret not saving money, but money can always come back to me, and I am also just 19. It would have to be purposely missing my mother's first and last New York City marathon. I have been to many of my mother's marathons, almost all, and when she was accepted, I was excited but realized how long it was and said I would stay home and hang out with my friend. It was because the event was so big that I would only see my mother for a minute before she went back on her journey. Looking back, it was definitely selfish of me to do that, and I feel very guilty about it. It would have been better to go and support her during the race. I apologize to my mother at least 100 times a year for it, and she says it does not matter and that she is totally okay with it. I just wish my father had forced me to go. He is always nagging me about it and making me feel guilty that I did not go. But as a parent, he should have just forced me if he was going to criticize me for not going. It is definitely one of my biggest regrets, at the top of my list actually. Besides giving birth, I would say it is one of her biggest accomplishments that I missed out on. Story 38. I regret not exploring the world before having children. I began very early, and now I am a young grandmother with a newly rescued puppy. No breaks. Story 39. Living my life more fully and furthering my education before having children. I had my first child at 23 and my second at 25, and I love my children dearly. However, I wish I had done more for myself. Story 40. We adopted our puppy at Christmas time in 2012. The shelter was doing pet photos with Santa the same day we adopted her. I regret not taking her for a photo since she was an adorable 8-week-old puppy, and we were there anyway. It would have added just minutes to our day. I am still not sure why we did not. Maybe just excited to welcome her home and take her to meet everyone. We had to say goodbye to her at the start of this month after almost 13 years. Story 41. Learning the piano. I did not have the opportunity at the time, but I wish I had learned it as a child when I had time to invest. Story 42. Changing my major in college. I really should not have felt like I needed to finish my first degree and should have just gone ahead and changed it. Story 43. Wiping out my social media. I have deleted my Facebook account and very recently my LinkedIn. I do not regret it and will not miss it. Story 44. I regret not proposing to her when I had the chance. Now she is a memory I scroll past, not a message I wake up to. Story 45. I regret not caring about what people think. I feel like I have always been a people pleaser, but it got really bad in high school when combined with wanting to fit in and have my friends think I was cool. My grandmother suffered from dementia for 8 years before passing away a few months ago. She had been mentally absent for most of those years, but I lost valuable time with her when my siblings and I were the only people she could remember, all because I thought it was lame to spend time with family. Story 46. Buying Bitcoin when it was $1 each. The opportunity was there, but I was unemployed at the time and thought it would be irresponsible to take a risk and buy $1,000 worth. Story 47. I did not date or socialize during my teenage years. I was not serious about studying, and I wasted 5 years doing nothing after graduating high school. Now I am 23 and I feel like I am far behind in life. Story 48. Starting my business earlier. Selling my good properties to invest in my businesses. They are slow and burdensome, suitable for people with no ambition. Story 49. I regret not telling my first love how much I truly loved her. The world was so different back then, and the fear was so real. Hiding in the dark and being a disappointment to family takes an enormous amount of mental energy. The time spent with her was short yet beautiful. I wish she knew what she meant to me, then and now. Story 50. Not wiping my work computer and leaving a resignation letter on my CEO's desk before taking my vacation as planned. Back then, a senior developer could get a new job by wandering into a meetup and complaining about their job. I wish I had taken advantage of that when my boss pulled some stunningly stupid nonsense. For the record, nobody is fooled when it is fine for Matt, Dave, and David to take a 3-week vacation, but the sky falls in when Alice tries to take the same amount of time as her peers. Story 51. I should have joined the Air Force out of high school. There were so many crossroads. I remain curious about what would have happened if I had taken the other options. I should have sued my last employer. I wish I had done that. Story 52. Falling off the wagon when I was intermittent fasting. I lost almost 50 pounds, but it was causing a lot of stomach pain. Instead of continuing in another way, I gained it all back and then some. Story 53. I wish I had dated in high school. I know I was not in a great phase of life at that time. Frankly, I was difficult, and if I met high school me in an alleyway, she would destroy me on sight. But I still wish I had any experience with being in a relationship or having romantic interactions with people. Not entering the dating scene when everyone else did has made figuring out dating in my mid-20s very difficult. Story 54. Money isn't everything. Happiness comes from yourself and doing the things you want and like. Maybe she was just trying to let you know that sometimes we have to sacrifice things for the things we enjoy doing. Story 55. Taking a random day off work and picking up my daughter from school just to go out. Or stopping yard mowing on a Tuesday night so I could have dinner with her. Or skipping a spin class on Wednesday night so I could just hang out with her. Later that night, she had a brain aneurysm that took her life. Story 56. Not trying harder in life or getting help with my self-confidence. I am certain now my low self-esteem has held me back. It is not just feeling worthless. It is feeling that I would fail and not be able to do things most people can do, from food shopping to learning to drive. It has been worse lately as I cannot even bring myself to play online games out of fear of being criticized because I am not good enough. Story 57. 1. Investing in myself early on. Saving money and learning to invest in Vanguard FTSE All-World High Dividend Yield ETF. I wasted 10 years before doing so, focusing on my health all the time. Stopping when I started working was a mistake. Learning to love myself and take better care of my family. As a teenager, I was difficult. Story 58. Going to college straight out of high school, experiencing college life, and studying abroad are opportunities one never took, and I deeply regret it. Story 59. Letting some high-rate certificates of deposit lapse and assuming they will be renewed using the high rate is incorrect. Instead of getting 3 to 4% annual percentage yield, I would get 0.2%. Story 60. I received intensive therapy when I was younger and still adaptable. Now, in my 30s, I am still dealing with all the challenges I had in my teens and 20s. Story 61. Ending a 13-year friendship. Borderline personality disorder emotional vampire was a hell of a combo. I wish them well, but there is nothing that would get me to reopen that friendship. Story 62. I regret not being more selective with the men I dated in the past. I had low self-esteem in my early 20s, and I allowed the worst kinds of people to treat me poorly. Story 63. Not walking away. I would have rather been in situations that were clearly unhealthy for me than deal with being alone. Story 64. Doing things that could cause injury or pain. Loved bicycle motocross but was afraid of breaking a leg or arm. Felt the same way with power kites. Bought a big kite and a kite buggy. The first attempt failed. Got pulled out and fell hard. Gave up because of fear. Wish I were not scared now that I am older. Story 65. Well, son, a funny thing about regret is that it is better to regret something that you have done than to regret something that you have not done. And if you see your mother this weekend, be sure to tell her. Satan. Story 66. Not going to college in the city after high school. As a child, not exploring different subcultures for fear of being a poser. Story 67. All these comments are so inspirational. I just came here to say I bought a $50 speaker. No regrets. Story 68. Not taking the opportunity to travel to Japan in the early 2000s. Now with a spouse and children, I probably will not get that chance again. To be young and single again. Story 69. I regret not leaving Canada to move to England with my abusive family. I regret not being a Canadian orphan. My life would have been so much better. Story 70. Buying Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin. I tried to convince my ex to let me buy $5,000 worth when they were about $200 each. She was having none of it. I was in a mining pool too and had a few Bitcoins, Ethereum, and Litecoin in my wallet. My ex threw away my password list. The site merged with another site or something, and I was never able to find out where my wallet went. Story 71. Not breaking up with my high school boyfriend when I knew that I wanted to because his grandfather had just died. So I stayed with him and then he cheated on me when my grandfather died. Story 72. Not allowing my cat to sleep on my bed. He died a few years ago while my friend was temporarily keeping him for me during a fire. I now have a 1-year-old cat that sleeps in bed with me every night. I will forever regret not allowing him on my bed. Story 73. Getting sober sooner. I threw away a great marriage and family. I still have one son who is not speaking to me. I have been sober for 6 years. Story 74. I regret that I did not learn enough from every exam. I regret not leaving sooner relationships that were not good for me. I regret fighting for people who did not deserve it and were not willing to put in the work for me. I regret not speaking up when something really bothered me and holding it in, waiting for it to go away. Every time, it just builds up and creates even more frustration. Story 75. I cannot have regrets like that because I know I do my best at any point in my life and constantly reevaluate my values to ensure I am doing that to prevent regrets. I am sad certain things were not possible or certain things happened, but I also understand why and accept that. Story 76. Being more assertive and aware of my self-worth when I was younger. And losing my virginity younger than I did. I was late, far too late. Story 77. Making an offer on the house on Binford Drive in 2021 changed my life completely. Not doing that would have slowly and completely destroyed it. Story 78. Traveling overseas when I was younger. Now that I have the money, I do not have the time, and most of the places I want to visit are not as safe as they once were. Story 79. I regret not immediately removing my ex after discovering his infidelity. I should have let him leave without any response. Story 80. Not being able to reply confidently to an insult or disrespect only because I was not able to think of one at that particular moment. The insult got the better of me. Story 81. Joining the military or reserve officers training corps in college. I am not trying to glorify it or because I wanted to go to combat. I just think it would have helped me a lot personally with things like confidence, self-esteem, sense of leadership, and decision-making. Story 82. I went to university because I was afraid to be away from my boyfriend at the time. We ended up breaking up 6 years later. Story 83. I regret not approaching this attractive person when I was backpacking through Europe. She was signaling me, and I completely misunderstood her cues because I was young and naive. It took me 5 years to realize she wanted to be intimate. Story 84. Being more outgoing as a kid, I became super antisocial and had no friends from grade 7 through finishing high school. Now, as an adult, I am really struggling to make friends because it seems like everyone already has their social groups. Story 85. I don't know about regrets. I definitely have things I did or didn't do where I wondered what the alternative could have been, but I try to always do what is right at that point in time. I guess it still stings though. Story 86. Not going to therapy as a teenager or young adult. I probably would have been able to work through many issues then and live a more fulfilling life instead of obsessing over grades and skipping time with friends to study. Story 87. I was an air crewman in the United States Navy doing anti-drug flights out of Howard Air Force Base in Panama. On one of our days off, we had the opportunity to ride a nuclear-powered guided missile cruiser, the USS Bainbridge, through the Panama Canal, then take a bus back. I passed because I wanted to sleep in. After all, I would get many other chances to ride a warship through the Panama Canal. Story 88. Not doing more to stop it when my parents started falling for contrarians, conspiracy theories, charlatans, and other scams. It was 2020, fairly early in the outbreak before coronavirus vaccines were available. My parents both caught coronavirus, recovered, but were seemingly suffering from the effects of long coronavirus. My normally very rational and critically thinking parents quickly fell into all sorts of conspiracy theories and scams, and let charlatans basically turn their entire worldview upside down. I tried to set them straight, but I was also working on finishing my master's degree at that time and couldn't devote enough time to pushing back on the things they were consuming and repeating. I ignored too much of it, let it get too deep into them, and soon it was too late. You cannot reason someone out of a position they did not reason themselves into. It is my greatest regret. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.